Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanys Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Jurkofsky. I am a Reiki master. I am an Aqua Lead master, Crystal master, Nocti master, stuff. Celtic Shamanic High Priestess and a channel, as well as a Galactic Ambassador. So, Jen, would you like to share what you do? What stuff you do?
I do the stuff too. Some of those energy master kind of things. I am a registered psychotherapist, a certified Canadian counselor, and intuitive life coach. I work with human design and the Enneagram and a bunch of other really cool things to really kind of get to know yourself and understand so that we can kind of transcend the conditioning in which we live. And it's just all like so right in my head, and I'm sharing all of it because Tanys and I, with our wonderful friend Jacqueline, just got done working on an upcoming course that is going to be incredible. So I just have all that kind of flowing through. So sharing it more than I normally do.
Yeah, stay tuned for the course. We're all really excited, actually. It's Know Thyself. And it's going to be like a 9-week class at this point. We're still finalizing details, but at this point, it looks like it's going to be like 9 weeks of intensive, like, get to know who you are kind of class, and bringing in all sorts of tools. And, you know, the three of us are working diligently to get you all the awesome information packed into that time. And it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. A lot of fun. So, yeah, and Jen and I are still working on our other classes as well, trying to get those through. In terms of an update for the school, so we've got some classes coming up this weekend, actually. I am teaching a Reiki level 3 this weekend. So if you have a Reiki level 2 and you want to enrich that and bring it further along your journey, our lineage does Reiki level 3 and then a master's class. So if you have level 2 and you want to enrich that, I'm teaching that on Saturday starting at 10 o'clock, 10 to 6. And on Sunday, we have an awesome class with Gary Chatham, who will be actually teaching flower essences, which are the energetic essence of flowers. And it helps to really, how would you describe it, Jen? I don't have the write-up right in front of me. It's
Bach flower is incredible. Basically, there's different flower remedies for all kinds of things. So you're feeling really stressed going into something, and you might want to take a rescue remedy or particular flower oils that you can, not oils, tinctures that you can put in. And I, it's so funny. I have Bach flower. I was introduced to it many, many years ago from my aunt. I love it. And I have a bottle and I keep it. And you have a water bottle and you just infuse it with different flower remedies and stuff. And Gary's going to get into all the different kinds of remedies out there, what you can use, how you can use them, what they help for, even just dealing with like anxiety or fear, depression, all of that. It's pretty incredible the way that the flower essences can be used to really kind of bring in what we're looking for in order to calm, ground, focus, have direction, all of that. It's really awesome. It's going to be a great course.
And this is actually just the level 1. And I was talking to him the other day, and he is going to be able to certify people. So he's going to be continuing this to the certification. So this is a level 1 for certification in the flower essences classes. So I'm taking
it. I don't work in an organization now other than Twillow, but like we're a lot of virtual and stuff. But I remember, I used to work in an environment where there was a lot of high stress, always dealing with things. And I'd have my little rescue remedies and people would come and be like, Jen, do you have one of those jelly gummy things again? Can I, right? And it's that moment where it can bring you down and just kind of give you that grounding so that you're good to continue on and manage and navigate through, right? So
yeah, I take rescue remedy a lot. A lot of mornings I will take it. I'll take my usual whatever vitamins, and then I'll throw some rescue remedy in at the end, just because I find that it's a great way to start the day. right?
It
You start it with grounded and feeling like,
Yeah.
and it's, I find it boosts my immune system as well, you know, because the more you're in the right headspace, your immune system gets boosted as well. So for me, I take it as a preventative thing for that as well.
I mean, you think about like echinacea and stuff like that. Like we have these vitamins and things that are flowers that do boost our immune system, that do, right? And so we already have that. So, you know, instead of necessarily going to the pill and the pharmacy, you can actually make these beautiful remedies at home with the Bach flower. So it's pretty cool. And even animals, you know, animals with high anxiety and stuff like that. I know even for traveling with animals, doing a rescue remedy and things have been really helpful in helping kind of transport and stuff. So there's so many amazing uses, and I'm sure Gary's going to get into all of that. I don't have to, to tell you, but definitely a class worth taking.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, so that's what's coming up. We've got that going. We've got these other classes coming. There's this every week. And, you know, stay tuned on the website. There's also some stuff coming up with Karen Stillman, Dr. Karen Stillman. She does some classes once a month where she's looking at using the subconscious release therapy. And she does that to help us work through stuff. So she does group sessions where that's concerned. So that's going to be helpful too. So stay tuned for that. And hello, Michelle. So Michelle is also one of our awesome teachers, and she's in our chat here. We can put her on the screen, her notes there. And yeah, great to see you. Thank you for joining us today. And she's going to be teaching a class coming up soon as well. She's actually teaching at a conference for Vedic astrology coming up. So check out her website of Astrological Tarot because she's got all the details there. It's going to be awesome. And she's going to teach a similar one with Twillow Lifestyle as well. We were talking about that the other day.
And always join you guys on the Wednesday for your readings.
Yes. Come and get readings on Wednesday with Michelle and I, and then we have teachers on also. Is it you? You're this week.
I did last week. I mean,
you did last week?
I could do this week again if you guys need. But I don't think I'm scheduled for it.
I'm not sure. Hello, Susan. Thank you for joining us. She's coming on about the Bach flowers. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah. She says today is a powerful portal for beautiful incoming energies. So awesome. So we'll take advantage of that. Michelle says she looks forward to teaching with Twillow Lifestyle Academy. We're so excited to have you. It's awesome. And I have open mic with Ramsey Cheedy as well on Friday. So join us at 7:00 Friday evening. Come and join us there. So what's happening in our transits in human design, Jen?
Yeah, let me actually pull it up. I'll take a look and let you guys know what's going on there.
So while you do that, I'm just going to give an overview. So we usually give a quick human design transits thing, and then we pick a card from this deck here that has a topic, and then Jen and I will have a chat about that. That's how we have authentic conversation that's spontaneous. Yes, Ramsey's on this week on Wednesday. Great. Awesome.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. On Wednesday at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, I believe. So join us on that for that as well. Lots of where we do readings, little tidbits, and if you give a donation, then you get a fuller reading, and you get first on the list. So,
yeah, and it's incredible readings. You guys definitely want to check that out. Yeah. So, all right. Right now, we well, let's see. As of the 22nd and until the 27th, I believe, we are going to be in Gate 41. So the Sun Gate 41. This is about contraction. Right? So the energy of contracting, pulling back, It's an emotional energy, and it's really about regrouping, right, in preparation for the next phase. And so it's beautiful because we think about this and we're kind of like, oh well, pulling back and kind of what's wrong and why don't I want to necessarily be out doing things, or why don't I want to be moving forward with stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, but this is that prep phase. We have to have this in order to kind of move into that next step.
Right.
And I think we talked about this before, but in human design, the new year is not that end of December into January. It actually happens in late January. And so this really is that kind of preparatory phase where we're looking at, okay, we're reflecting on everything that's happened and all of the goals and things. What did we achieve? What was our purpose previously? And now how do we move forward? And what is that going to, look like for us? What worked, what didn't work, all of that kind of stuff. And that's where the regrouping comes in, right? So that contraction piece is really about having that reflection and kind of really looking at, all that has come before and where we want to go from here. So really take this time, allow yourself the space, allow yourself to dream, right?
Yeah.
Allow yourself to kind of be open, to what may come, so that we can, move in the direction that you really want to move in. Right.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I felt that certainly energetically. It's been like a real most of January for me anyway has been very much sort of like I equate it to the hermit card, right? Where you just sort of want to go inside and take a look at what's going on and assess sort of what you're doing in the external world and how that's affecting on the inside is kind of what's been happening. And I think that the transits have certainly been in that.
Yeah. Well, and I love the way that for the gene keys, so Richard Rudd does that. And, he talks about this ability to actually like reprogram on a cellular molecular level right now, right? Like we're really in that place of being able to bring it in and kind of go, okay, I want to rework it all and see where do I want to go from here, right?
Well, and the guides have been working on our cellular structures, like the deep structures, right, within, because we have crystalline material in there. So they're like reprogramming the crystalline material deep within the cells. So with that, it's creating huge changes in our bodies, in our how we function and all of that stuff. So
Well,
that's what everybody's feeling, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you think about like, and I appreciate, Michelle, what you're saying there too, right? Like when we go through something really hard, um, you know, it's kind of human nature to not want to feel it.
Yeah.
Right. And to, having this idea of like, okay, well, it's still coming up and I'm still, I'm still processing it and everything. And I think that a big part of that is we don't give ourselves that contraction time. Like we don't come
Right.
in, we don't allow ourselves to truly immerse in it because of that fear that it's going to take over. Right. And that's going to be all that we experience.
Well,
And
and there's a certain amount too of like society almost shames you, right, for having emotion. And so because of that, like we don't want to feel the shame, so we sort of push it down and ignore it and not pay attention. And that's kind of what happens when we go inside. We have to sort of face that emotion piece.
yeah,
So,
but I think it's really important to know that there is never shame
mm-mm,
in feeling
no,
anything, right? I mean, feelings are messengers. And so, yes, society tries to tell us this one is good and that one is bad, and you shouldn't feel that way. And, well, why aren't you over it by now? Or,
mhm.
you shouldn't
Other
be
people's
upset
expectations.
about that, or it's not that big of a deal. And, like every emotion is there as a messenger for something for us to look at,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't mean that we have to react or respond to every emotion or every emotional kind of,
Just feel it. Like we have to allow ourselves to feel it, but we don't have to react. necessarily right in the moment, right?
But when we try to push it away or don't give it its due course, all we're doing is putting it into a place where we could lose control. Right? It's like that dam. And it just builds the pressure and builds the pressure. And now when we look at it, we're like, I'm not going there. That thing's going to explode. Right?
Yeah.
But if we allowed it to have its constant flow, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's much easier on the body.
Yeah.
In so many ways. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Welcome, Annie. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Yes. They are messengers.
Yeah.
Right. So when we feel an emotion, why are we feeling it? What's the message behind that emotion?
Yeah. I love that. I don't know. I probably have talked about it before on here, but Rumi's guest house.
Mm-hmm.
I love that when it comes to looking at emotions as messengers, right? Because that's what he talks about in that poem. And it's really looking at. Yes.
I'm going to have to pull one now because you brought up Rumi. So I have to pull
because I brought up Rumi.
Yeah, I don't know. They're telling me I have to. So there's something come up.
But yeah, so I'm gonna just say the poem because I love it so much.
Please.
So he says, this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. A dark thought, shame, malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never know. I shouldn't say we never know, but we often don't know.
Yeah. Well, we won't ever know if we don't sit and get the message that the messenger has for us.
Exactly. So I actually was told to pick two. So there's two here. So we have, and I guess this is a message that needs to go out to everybody. So it's about embracing. So it's Divine Mother Manifests is the first one. So it looks like that. It's beautiful. You see, she's really like, it's very much Mother Gaia for me. Like she's holding the world in her hands, and there's all that beautiful green energy around her, and manifesting that change, manifesting the change that's coming in. Okay, and then our galactic friends. The impossible made possible.
I love it.
So, Gaia and our galactic friends are helping us to make everything possible. They're helping us manifest a beautiful new world.
Yeah. Well, and I love it too, because when we talk about the transit right now, right, this is the perfect time for that. We're going in to recreate what we want for ourselves as we move forward. And it is about making the impossible possible, because as Audrey Hepburn says, even impossible says, I'm possible.
Exactly.
Right? And so, the only limitation that we really have is what we put on ourselves in that way. It is The Guest House by Rumi.
That's the name of the poem.
Yeah. Well, we always pull a card.
We do.
And I don't know, like, do we pull one, or is this kind of our topic for today? This idea of really kind of
the introspection.
And allowing emotions and what that means.
I'm good with that. We can use this one, which is the top one, and it's peace.
Oh, lovely.
So that's all about emotions and finding peace with your emotions. It says, I am a being of love. I release all negative energy. So we could just modify
I
that.
love it. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So peace.
Oh, peace.
I like to show the grids at the top as well because they have energy to them.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if my camera would focus in a little bit more.
It is beautiful though.
So peace, emotions, and finding emotional peace. And that's kind of what we're talking about already.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's interesting too, because we have this concept that peace means that there's no conflict, right? Or that peace means that there's no struggle, or there's no, it's everything is just smooth sailing. But peace, when I think about peace, I think about the eye of the hurricane. Yeah. It's the ability to stay in your truth regardless of what's happening around you.
That groundedness.
Yeah, and staying connected to source and allowing things to be what they are, not trying to make them into what we want. Right? And so when it comes to emotions, that's such a big thing, because we all, from the time we come into this world, are taught these emotions are good. This is what you want to have. This is what you should feel, right? These emotions are bad. We don't want these in our experience. They don't feel very good.
These are not peaceful emotions.
Right? But all of the emotions, and allowing all of them, and understanding and recognizing that, whatever we maybe have decided we wanted, or however we've labeled them or judged them, they're all still there. Right? And so they're going to always come up in our experience because they're all a part of everything. You good? Water? Good? Okay. And so, when we're able to really embrace that reality, now there's peace. And I can be sad and still have peace. I can be joyous and still have peace. Right? I can be angry and still have peace. And so it's such an amazing thing to recognize that we don't have to, it's not about the experience of the emotion itself that determines whether it's peaceful or not. We determine whether or not we have peace in the midst of it.
Right. There's somebody on that needs to clear their throat chakra. This is what I'm experiencing. So, whoever you are that's feeling the throat chakra stuff, please go and find a blue crystal. Okay. Or start speaking your truth, one or the other.
Truth would be ideal. Blue crystals are good too.
In the meantime, yeah. So, yes, all of that. Oh, I just want to come back quickly to this here. So Susan's saying so much transformation with all the UFOs coming forth. We're getting assistance on so many levels. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And she also says here, heart, the centered heart, soul grounds into the earth like the roots of a tree. Yeah, very much. That's part of why I chose a tree, actually. So the willow tree means a lot to me for Twillow, right? The willow tree means a lot to me because it can be grounded and flowy at the same time. So it is very much like, emotions are all about flow. And so having that groundedness and still being flexible and flowy is like the willow tree. And that's part of why I chose that. And that is kind of what we hope to accomplish with our emotions, right? Be grounded, but be able to allow them to flow in whatever way is necessary too, right? And Jen, you seem to be frozen on the screen. I don't know if you can still hear us.
Yeah. Hold on. My computer
Yeah,
just
there we go.
it does this thing. I have to figure out my settings and stop it from going into night mode halfway through this. I don't know.
You just need to tell nighttime yet.
It decides at 5:30 that everything needs to turn into night mode. Yeah.
Oh, wow, beautiful. Thank you. That would be lovely. So Susan said she'll send me some photos of a willow tree that she took this week. That's awesome. Thank you.
The willow tree, I mean, the symbolism behind the willow tree is incredible in so many levels. You know, even in just the protectiveness of it and what that entails, and then the flow of it. And I love in the Tao where they talk about, you know, being that flexible tree, right? If a tree alive, it's flexible and it bends in the wind and it allows, you know, for the environment to be what it is, right? But if it is, you know, on its way out and starting to die, it becomes rigid.
Yeah.
Right? And then it breaks and it's not able to adapt and be a part of it. And so when we talk about peace and emotions, it's such a beautiful imagery, Tanys. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. And that, you know, what comes to mind in what you were saying, you know, the more rigid we are with our structures and the way we, so that comes to the like the judgmental piece, right? The more judgmental we are, the more rigid we are, the more of a divide there is, the more structure, the more rigid, and we can break easier, meaning we react more, right? Triggers.
Yeah.
So, you know, trying not to be, or really working towards being less judgmental can really help us to go with that flow a little bit more, right?
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Susan. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about even just this kind of idea of peace and how our own, you know, our own inner narratives. And I talk to clients about this so often, but it's our own inner narratives that often ruin our peace.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, yeah, experiences can be very hard and we can go through some really horrific things. But the way that we narrate that for ourselves determines how flexible or rigid we are as we go through it, and in turn determines the suffering that we experience.
And by that narrative, you're talking like almost the self-judgment around whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
In terms of that. I know, you know, well, I mean, you and I were talking about this earlier. There's, you know, the self-judgment. So for me, my human design is about that being flexible and going with the flow and all of that. And I had some sort of self-judgment around that. I was like, going with the flow and doing what feels right in the moment feels not stable for me or something, right? Like I was like, it feels rigid. I feel like I should be more rigid is what it is, right? So I'm judging myself for not being, and loyal was the word I was thinking of in terms of projects and that kind of thing. And so for me, when I realized after a discussion with Jennifer about the human design, and I was like, oh, I had like a light bulb moment. I'm like, oh, so that's loyalty to others, but you know, we were talking about loyalty to self. And so for me, I was really judging myself on wanting to follow the flow when that's really my human design is to follow the flow. So, you know, I am working on switching that self-judgment in terms of that. So it's kind of an example. I don't know whether I explained it all that well, but anyway.
No, it's great because again, it's about, it is that exact thing, right? The narrative that we hold about ourselves, about our experience, about how we fit into it really determines how we feel. right? So if we're looking at something that is just an experience, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And we go, oh, I don't want to do this. This isn't the experience I want. This isn't how I'm supposed to be. Should, what if, whatever it is, right?
Exactly.
Then there's suffering and there's struggle and there's resistance and it's just hard, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at it and we go, okay, experience, let's see where this takes us, right? It's like, oh, there's opportunity, right? There's, this ability to kind of move through and explore and stay open and curious. And, it's such a beautiful moment because we realize that, like, okay, yeah, maybe there is this kind of, it's funny. What's coming to mind is the crisis, right? In the kanji, I think it's a kanji. I don't know. Reagan would be able to tell me way more on this. I'm not very good with all of the terminology. But basically, it breaks down into danger and opportunity.
Right.
And so, yes, there is this potential for danger, and yet there's also this potential for opportunity. And, which way are we going to go with it?
How are we going to look at it?
Yeah. And our narrative really determines so much of what that looks like. And if we can stay in flow and if we have peace, right? Or if we have resistance and turmoil and suffering.
Yeah, definitely. And Susan says, flow. Living in the now has its presence in one's life.
Yes.
Yeah. Living in the now absolutely helps add to your peace.
Yeah.
Because, future is all about worry and past is all about guilt or shame, and those destroy your peace. So staying in the present moment definitely is a way to capture that peaceful feeling, that we look for.
Well, and I love that too, because, geeky me, play on words, but you have presence and also presence with the T, right? The gifts that come from being in the present moment. And, we miss them so much when we're caught up in, what we want to label as good or bad,
right.
And it's interesting too, because how often are we actually present for anything, right?
Yeah.
And so, there's a book, Ishwan, I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called, but he talks about this in...
I agree, Susan. I almost said something like that, actually. You're not a geek, the line got it.
I mean it in a very endearing way. I say I love to geek out, and I just get so excited about being able to do that. But I thank you very much. But I mean it in a very joyful, fun kind of way. But yeah, and he talks about this idea that we're never really present, right? And the example that he gives is, you're going out in the evening with a friend or a date or whatever, and you're at work, and the whole time all you can think about is how great this experience this evening is going to be. And so you're not really focused on work and you're not really getting stuff done, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever, I just can't wait to get till tonight, right? And then we get till tonight, and during the dinner, it's like, oh my God, I didn't do this at work and I didn't get that done. And what was I thinking? And why didn't I just focus and get all of this stuff done? And now you're not enjoying the dinner that you were so excited for earlier. Right? And then the next day at work, you're sitting in a meeting and you're like, oh man, that person's not going to go out with me again. I wasn't present. I wasn't focused on what was going on in our, our dialogue. And I was somewhere else entirely. And we're never just in the moment. Right? And so, it's easy sometimes for the mind, especially when we look at emotion, right? It's like, I don't want to be here. I want to be there. That's better than here. Now, all of a sudden, it's really hard and there's so much resistance to be here. But if we perpetuate that wanting for only a certain experience, all of a sudden, even when we have that experience, we're not present for it.
It's true. Right? Well, and, we think about that in terms of the linear time, but it's also about presence in terms of being in this dimension.
Wow, that's a whole other.
It is. It is. For those of us that do a lot of dimensional travel, right? When we're being pulled out to do stuff in other dimensions, we're not as present in this. So the guides actually gave me an interesting visual on that at one point. They were describing like our consciousness as being like almost this glass office building, like having it contained in a glass office building. It's not like this, but this was, they're like, for your linear minds, this will help. I'm like, okay. So they described this glass office building, okay, with a glass, like a clear elevator shaft that was open to all the floors. And so what they described was that our consciousness, if you think about it like a cloud, right, that we can be mostly in that ground level, that third dimension, and then take parts of us, and that consciousness can go up to some of these other levels. Well, when we start to do things like astral travel or shamanic journeying, stuff like that, we're taking more of the consciousness from that third floor, the ground floor, and we're bringing it up into these other levels to do the journey work. So then we're not present in this 3D here kind of existence, right?
Yeah.
And so we're more in these other levels. So when we're talking about being present, it's also about bringing all that stuff back to this ground floor of this office building and actually being present in our bodies. And so there's also that sort of, embodiment. We were talking about this actually, stay tuned for the class, because it's in the emotional embodiment. And how do we feel the emotions in the body, and can we be with that as well? Because that's also a component. So, because when we're out in the other dimensions, we're not in our body. So that's another aspect of presence, right? And I think a lot of people do this and they don't even realize they're doing it. When we start to daydream and stuff, like that's our consciousness going out to the other dimensions, and we're not really present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because when we talk about the series that we did before Christmas for
past survival,
and all of that, and this idea that, we are multidimensional, but like, okay, so here we have this 3D experience, and everything that entails for us, right? And then we have our ability to sense in that extrasensory way all of this experience around us. And then we can also sense other realities. We can sense other dimensions, right? We can sense other lives and other experiences. We can sense all of our generational stuff all the way through. So now this is just in this, right?
Exactly.
And now take that and expand it so that now we're also taking our, other bodies in different places, and bits and pieces are being pulled here and there, right? And so, this idea of presence, it takes on a whole new meaning, right? And how do we have peace amidst all of this, right?
Yeah.
And, I think the beautiful thing in this, and we get into that kind of quantum physics side of things, but again, a geek out thing. But this idea
of like the geek thing.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Like, could I do like geek the geeky goddess? I'd love that. The goddess of geeking out. I don't know.
Group, actually.
I just have fun with it. But this idea that, everything is connected at all times. And so if we really look at the oneness of everything, even with all of these different things that we're sensing and all of these different experiences and, going back and through lives and into other dimensions and all, it's still also all one. And that you know, when we look at the 3D brain and what it's trying to process is going, what, no, what, no, what, right? But it is. And our higher self, the part of us that is connected to all of that and knows that, is able to go, yeah, okay. So I can be here, there, and everywhere and still be right here, right now.
Right.
Right. And so, you know, we there are times where we are more somewhere else, and we have to be for whatever reason. But in those moments where we need to truly be present for whatever is happening now, making that conscious decision to do that, we can and still be feeling all of these other things, right? And this is why I think it keeps coming up for me, is this eye of the storm. We can be whirling and still be right there in that calm peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so this is an interesting thing as well, another aspect of that. So as we move into the 5D, amazing times, right? So this office building is all of a sudden changing its structure a little bit, right? The 5D is now going to be the ground floor instead of the 3D at the ground floor, right? So there's that aspect, and that's part of what these changes are that are coming in, that we're just hearing a lot about from all sorts of sources. So yeah, so that's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out in terms of being present, because that presence is going to change. You know, our bodies are still going to be like that 3-dimensional. It's the consciousness that's going to change within it, right? Mind you, the crystalline structure will help to increase the vibration of the body as well, so that we can manage that consciousness energy as it is that's coming down. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey for all of us, I think.
Well, and I don't generally talk about it on here, but in human design, Ra talks about 2027 and the change in design that comes with that, and how we move from, you know, even communicating the way we do into a whole new way. And it's a lot more of bringing in kind of the clairs in some sense.
So
right?
like empathy is going to become stronger.
Yeah.
That's been my understanding from the guides, is that we're going to start to be able to communicate a little bit more telepathically. Oftentimes we do anyways, and we don't necessarily realize it. But we're, you know, that whole thing with being able to communicate easier that way and read more into each other's energies and stuff. So Susan has an interesting thing here. I believe the body's changing too as we bring in the light body. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's kind of what I was meaning with the crystalline structure changes with the DNA. You know, there is that happening as well. So what we see as 3D body will change. But it's still, what my impression is from what the guides is, that it's going to be very difficult for us to perceive that change in the body, because all of our framework is changing at the same time. So it's just going to feel fairly normal, I think, to all of us, but there's going to be a difference in how we view the world. I don't know. I think we're going to see some interesting changes, and we're going to just have to hold on for the ride, right?
Well, we don't know. I mean, there's going to be changes, but there's also going to be new forms, right? And things like that. And so, you know, there's going to be part of us that are, you know, what we are.
Yeah.
And there's going to be new generations that are going to be different, right? And we're going to have to do that interaction, and we're going to be learning from some of these new generations too, of what they're going to be bringing in, because it's going to be different than, you know, what we are, but we're going to be changing in the process too. So
that's right.
You know, so much adaptation and change. And, you know, it's funny because when we talk about peace, and, you know, there's such a resistance to change. Even when we want things to change, we don't like them the way they are. We want something to be different. But then when we're actually faced with that reality of change, it's It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, I like what's familiar. I might not like it, but I like it because it's familiar,
Yeah.
right? So, recognizing that all of this is happening and it's all okay, but it is going to be different.
Yeah. And, I think that the important part to realize is to be very patient with ourselves.
Yeah.
Through whatever the changes are that are coming, because Susan is right. There are some huge high frequency upgrades and uploads happening, and, we talked about earlier this week, we had a channeling session, Jen and I, and, the Elders Council came through, and they were talking about how there's new energies coming down to the earth, through some of us, practitioners and stuff. And that's because I noticed a change in what was coming through, like I do a lot of energy work. And so that the energy coming through my hands was different after one of these big uploads and stuff. So we were kind of looking for information on that. So, with it, I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but those kinds of things are happening. So there are new energies that are coming through, and they do feel very different when you're tapping into them, or when you're channeling them, or whatever the case may be. So I think that we're at this pivotal time where, as these energies come down, those are what are going to really push the changes forward. Right. And we're going to see a lot of healing, multi-generational and multi-dimensional healing, because really we do exist. We are multi-dimensional beings, and we exist on multiple dimensions, like the office building, right? And as we exist on those multi-dimensions, there's healing that needs to happen on all of those as well. Yeah. So I think we're going to see an uprising in more of those multi-dimensional healing modalities, because it's going to be necessary. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So, Susan, the grounded within our beings, and stand up for real sovereignty. Such, we're going behind the scenes. Yes, we need to make into what is real and that which is hidden. It's so true. So much being disclosed now and onwards. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, right? And we are so disconnected as a human race from what we truly are. Yeah. And there is a huge movement in the world to come back home to ourselves and what that means. And really, that's what we need to do, right? We are on this journey to come home to our being and to that connectedness. And there is so much more in the world. We talk again about peace, right? Because I keep coming back to it because it's our card for the day. And there are, we talk about, like, even in spiritual warfare kind of ideas and things like that, and being, light bringers, and what does that even mean? And, this whole kind of paradox of light and dark, and what even does that mean for our existence, right?
Yeah.
And, there is so much more than what our 3D senses can tell us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's part of that awakening piece, right? Is the increasing our awareness to start to see some of these things that we haven't seen. Whether that's, within our structures, whether it's within the other dimensional aspects, there is this disclosure piece. And, for me, being a galactic ambassador, the ET thing is coming too. I think sooner than what people actually are aware. So we shall see. But there's certainly a higher prevalence, right, of that kind of thing that's showing up for us. And part of that, I think, is this switch to the other dimension, the switch to the 5D, because when we switch ourselves to the 5D, we go from this to like this. So all of a sudden there's all this stuff here, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was going on, and it's been going on all along, but you don't really realize it because you're like this, right? So when we talk about spiritual awakening, it's kind of going from like this, our little 3D world where everything is linear, to like, oh, 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 right? All of a sudden you're seeing all this stuff that we didn't see before. And that's kind of that switch to the 5D awareness. In my opinion, that's how I see it anyways. It's one way of looking at it, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, we do think of things as linear in this world and the way that it is, right? And I talk to clients so often, and they're like, "Well, I was getting better, and now I'm like backsliding." And I'm like, "It's not a line. What are you talking about, right?
It's a continuum, right? Like a
Yeah,
spectrum of things. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you know, like I love like the Fibonacci sequence,
Yes, the circle,
right?
the spiral.
Because we do, and we circle back, and yet every time we do, we learn a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go through it, and then we circle back, and then we learn a bit more, right? And so, you know, there isn't this, you know, I'm better, I'm worse. You know, this is good, that's bad. It's just, you know, it's all part of that process. And so when we look at, okay, well, what truly is going to bring me peace, you know, that connection to source, that
Mm-hmm.
connection to our higher self, that truly understanding what it is to embody this experience, right? Because that's the other piece too. When we get into talking about spiritual stuff, often we're like, that's not this experience. It's the, you know, the greater experience. And it's like, okay, but we're here to have this experience. That's why we
Yeah,
came here,
that's right.
right? And so we can't negate one or the other. So to really understand, okay, well, why am I here? What am I here to
Why
have
am
in
I
this,
here? Why did I choose this?
right? Like,
Question.
what?
Your soul chose to be here, by the way.
Yeah. And so, you know, to be able to truly embrace peace, you know, having that kind of acceptance is part of that process.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, we don't come in here with these like perfect slates of everything is just hunky dory and nothing's going to ever go wrong, because that's not what this experience is about. Right. It's about growth, and it's about change, and it's about embracing, and it's about, you know, overcoming. It's all of it. And, you know, so even as we move into these new dimensions with new understandings and everything else, it's still that process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's a beautiful one, and it can be a very peaceful one amidst the chaos of the changing, if we allow it to be, and if we, you know, choose that that's what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We are perfectly imperfect. I love that saying because, you know, especially, you know, I'm a reformed perfectionist, and I like to think I am anyway. Because, you know, I was very people pleaser, right? We're the empath thing. And when we're trying to make everything perfect, there's a couple of things in there. First, we lose our peace.
Yeah.
Because there is no perfection.
So perfect.
Right? So we're just forfeiting our peace
Mm-hmm.
in that by doing that. But it's still something that's part of that human experience.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and that's, you know, we talk about this kind of the narrative or how we frame things, right? And okay, oh, there's my perfectionism again.
Yeah,
All right, I
exactly.
see it.
That's why
Right?
it's reformed, but still working.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing, right? Like, you know, we think peace, and we think it's like this concrete, well, I have peace, period. Well,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Right? At any moment, peace is there. But our triggers get in the way, our patterns get in the way, our biases get in the way, right? All of those experiences.
Experiences. Mhm.
Exactly. And so, you know, it's not that we're always going to feel it, but it's always right there. Right? And at any moment I can say, okay, I'm going down this rabbit hole again of whatever it is, perfectionism, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
About relationships, about work, about life in general. And, it's like, okay, I can just go there and wallow in that. I can not go there, or I can take peace with me. Come on, peace. Let's go explore this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now it's a whole new experience.
Yeah, and that brings to mind the acceptance of what is where you find some of that peace as well, right? Because it's the resistance to it that takes away the peace, as you mentioned. And so the acceptance of this is where we are is another way to bring that peace in. Okay, so it's not like judging that I'm not where I need to be, or I should be here, or I should be there. It's all about those expectations again. I mean, we talk about that probably almost every week about the shoulds and the expectations and
judgment, labels, and expectations.
Yep. And for all of us, right? For ourselves, we expect a lot of ourselves, and then there's also the expectations of others, and is that fair to them to expect stuff, and is that creating less peace for them if they're taking that on?
Well, and even in this spiritual journey, right? There's so many people that talk about it, that write about it, that share about it, and then it's like, oh, well, I had that experience. Oh, I didn't have that experience. Well, am I supposed to have that? Well, how come they had that experience? I don't think that's the right experience. Maybe I should have that. Well, am I supposed to do it this way? Well, maybe I should do it that. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's all okay. All okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is just experience, right? But we're always trying to label it and understand it, and it gets in the way.
Yeah.
A lot.
I know the other, that judgment thing. So when you've been triggered, sometimes we don't know exactly what the trigger is. And so, you're having this emotional reaction to something. And I know it's happened to me. I'll have this emotional reaction. I'm reacting to something and I'm not even sure exactly what I'm reacting to. And then my head gets in the way and I try to figure it out. What is this? What am I trying? Which, there's a piece of that that's good, right? Because that introspection, but introspection is from here, not from here necessarily. And so you start to try and figure it out. And then the judgment comes in and you're like judging yourself. Well, if I did that, then is this why I'm having this reaction? And then you realize you're switching to self-judgment.
Yeah.
As opposed to just experiencing the fact that you're having this emotional experience. I'm crying and I am sad. And then your brain gets in the way and it's like, why are you sad? Did I do something? How can you? Maybe I should change. Why am I? And then you start judging yourself about why you're sad. When really all you need to do is just sit in the fact that, okay, I feel sad and I'm going to process this energy.
Well, and the other piece too is, sadness is one of those things, like it could be intercessory. It's not even yours, right? And you're feeling
That happens to me a lot.
So, but the mind does want to put its own story to it. And it will always do that. It's, I think I've talked about this before too. There's a book and I really appreciate it. And it's called No Self, No Problem. And it talks about like the neuroscience of the brain and the workings of the brain and Buddhist teachings. Right. And it's really it's an incredible book. It's well worth the read. But the beautiful thing in there is that it really makes you get to a place where you go, oh, this thing I'm thinking, it's just a thought. It doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's real. It's like a cloud passing in the sky. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Right. And it's only real if we grab hold of it and we make it real.
And that's where we talk about the flow, right? Allowing the emotions to flow, right? Another message from Susan here. Thank you for allowing me to participate here with you all. Have an amazing day, week, and Aquarius times ahead. Yes.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much,
Thank
Susan. It's
you.
been wonderful interacting with you and having your comments as part of this. I love it when you guys interact and
Yeah,
share.
it's great.
Mhm.
It helps us to know what you're interested in too.
Yeah.
Oh, we have Karen here. Question: when I'm triggered, just notice it then. Feel it. Don't try to figure it out and figure out
Yes.
why. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you need to figure out why, then go into the heart space instead of the head.
Mhm.
Is it my heart that is, just notice that the feeling is there.
Yeah.
Figuring out why can be after.
Well, I think the problem with figuring out why, and I notice this with clients all of the time, is we immediately have this tendency to go to the other. I'm upset because you did this to me.
Mm,
Wait a minute. It might not be okay that you did this to me, but that's not why I'm upset,
yeah.
right? I'm upset because of something I believe about me in this moment because of what you did. Right? I'm coming up with something in that moment. So when we talk about not trying to figure out the why, and with Tanys, what she's saying about the heart space over the head is it's not about looking at the situation and going, okay, I'm triggered because of what you did. You made me upset. It's, okay, I'm upset because somebody said such and such. We'll use that as an example, right? Somebody said, I'm mean. Okay, why does that bother me? Do I think I was actually mean in that moment? Okay, well, maybe that was hurtful, what I said. I don't think it was, and I didn't mean it that way, but I could see how it maybe could be depending on what they're going through. Okay, now I'm also triggered though, because I think that them saying I'm mean means they think something about me, and I don't like that they think something about me. I don't want them to think that. Okay, well, why don't I want them to think that? Well, because I think it's a reflection of me. Why? Why is what somebody else says a reflection of me? I know who I am, right? And so it's really about that inner work within us. It's not about the experience or the incident or any of that. And then I can get to a place where I can go, okay, I can accept that maybe I was mean in that moment. And it's okay that you think I was mean. If I can say something differently next time, sure, I
Mhm.
will.
And we
But
can apologize for
yeah,
how they've taken it,
yeah. But when we're in that reactive mode, right?
Yeah.
There is no ownership of our role in it at all. And there isn't always acknowledgement that, even if that wasn't the intention, that, if what I said in love and kindness triggered you because of your stuff, I can acknowledge that and I'm sorry, right? It's not my responsibility to make it better for you. And it's
Right.
not my responsibility to work it through for you. But I can acknowledge that was a trigger and I'm sorry that I wasn't aware and I wasn't mindful of that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Karen
So
says she's triggered by places, not
places,
people.
not people. In what way? Because there's definitely some different things about that. Places
Yeah.
because of history with them, places because of what they represent,
Or
places because of how you
energetic,
feel in that moment in them. Like what
or the energy of the
Yeah,
place, because that can play a
well,
role as
that's
well.
yeah. Because I know there's times where I'll walk into somewhere and be like, "Nope, not my place. I'm out."
Jen and I do like space clearing and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely affects our emotional state,
Yeah.
depending
So
on where we
I
are.
I guess if you can give an example that might be helpful in kind of walking through it.
Mhm.
Um, because when we talk about being triggered by a place, uh, just weird feeling about being places. So I try to escape.
Oh,
Okay,
like,
so
sounds energetic.
yeah, so what I would do is, at that moment, again, feeling into it, not trying to figure it out, but feeling into it and go, okay, like what is it that I don't like in this moment? What is triggering me? And if it's fear, am I safe?
Yeah, that's the
Right?
first question.
And if you're safe and you're surrounded by people you love and everything is fine, okay, am I feeling into something that somebody else is feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Am I feeling into something in the environment? Or is something coming up for me in my own stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
That's the kind of figuring out that we do need to do,
Yeah.
not the, who caused this and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah. You said maybe I should sit in it and not be afraid of it. So the fear is there as a warning for something, right? So what is it warning you about? Again, is it somebody in the environment? Is it something about the environment? Is it something other dimensional about the environment?
Yeah.
Is there something that is off and needs to be cleared? Is there something that is actually unsafe in it? And then the other thing is, and we don't often recognize, but like senses, right? I'll walk into a place and smell something. Smell is the hugest thing for memory, and we don't always recognize what we're remembering, but it
Right.
will trigger something, a previous thought. Songs will do it too. I'll hear something and I'm brought right back to a moment, and I will be triggered. And I might not realize that I'm having that sensory response.
Yeah.
But it does happen. And so being able to say, oh, okay, I'm triggered because of that. That's reminding me of this, but right here, right now, I'm safe. This thing that it's reminding me of is not happening right now. So I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's an opportunity to reprogram that sense
That's right.
response.
So there's the automatic response that you're looking at when you're talking about triggers, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So this is actually one of those times that is really great for the basic exercise that I've talked about before in here, where our autonomic nervous system. So there's so many books out there like The Body Keeps Score and things like that talk about how on a very physiological level, the body remembers and it will tense up and it will respond in a way that is very much in that fight or flight or freeze kind of response because it's triggered this kind of previous memory. And so doing the basic exercise, which, you can't always do, but whatever, who cares what people think? Right? So you cross your arms, put them behind your head.
yeah. So do it too.
Okay. All right. And what this is, so I'll do it first because everybody's going to be sitting here like this if you're actually doing it. All right. So you keep your head straight and you move your eyes to the right as far as is comfortable, right? You're not straining here. You're not trying to look behind you, just what's comfortable. And you're going to sit here until you get a yawn, a swallow, or a sigh. And this can take some time, especially if you're really in reactive mode, if you're in, if your autonomic nervous system is really in fight or flight or freeze. But if, just sit with it, lay down with it, and allow it to just take its time. And then once you get that, you're going to go back and now over to the left and do it again until you get a yawn, a swallow, or a sigh. Be really mindful of this. Do it sitting down or laying down, because as your nervous system comes back into a ventral vagal state, into social engagement, your blood pressure will actually drop in your body. You will feel that change. And it can, if you get up too quick or if you're standing, you can be like, ooh, I'm a little woozy. I'm a little dizzy here. I gotta ooh, right? So, but in those moments where you're triggered and you recognize that it's a sensory trigger, it's a physiological trigger in the body, and it's bringing up that fight or flight, bring in the basic exercise. Bring yourself back into a ventral vagal state, and now you might be able to more clearly assess what's happening, right? And move forward.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great exercise. I've used it lots of times now that I know it. So that's awesome. So we're actually over our time tonight. So I'm going to say thank you to all of you for sharing your energy and sharing your thoughts and experiences with us. And we are sending you all love and peace tonight for our beautiful, card of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And Jen, do you want to tell people where they can reach you?
Sure. Well, you can always find me at Twillow. And you can also find me at myholisticself.com or myholisticselfcounseling.com, or on Facebook at Holistic Self Counseling. I always jumble that one.
And so you can find me at twillowlifestyle.ca. And stay tuned for all the classes and stuff that are coming up and all that fun stuff. And I'm sure that we'll be having another Twillow Fusion at some point. So stay tuned for that as well. And come on back and see us again next week around 5 o'clock on Monday. And we're sending you tons of love and light and peace. Have an awesome week, everyone.